Okay, so this is Wednesday, October 14th worksheet, and this is talking about the slope of a line worksheet. So we're going to look at this, and we're going to write down the formulas. I printed this from Schoology, so it looks a little bit different than the actual worksheet, but if you're an online person, then this probably looks like exactly what you see. So we're going to look at number one. We are given a graph and we're given 2 points on that graph, 215 and 430. And we're going to need to write down the rate of change or the slope and the y-intercept. So where it crosses the y-axis, which is our vertical line, this one right here. Not really sure about the 2 blanks. Okay, so I believe what we need to be doing is using the slope formula as opposed to other ways that you can find slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, because we're looking for the change in y, so how much it changes over y on top of how much it changes for your x values. So you can label these however you want. I'm just going to label this as the first one I see, so I'm going to say it's x1 and y1, because remember we always label our points x and y, and this is my first pair I'm looking at, so I'm just plugging a 1 out to the side, and this one can be my x2, y2. Okay, so once they're labeled, all I need to do is plug it into that formula. So my y2 was 30 minus my y1, which was 15. On top of x2, which was 4, minus x1, which was 2. And then I'm going to solve from there. 30 minus 15 is 15. 4 minus 2 is 2. So I'm actually not sure yet how the answers need to be put in there. I'm sure Coach Elkins will say that in his video. You can leave it as 15 over 2 technically. That is slope, it'll look like a fraction, but I'm pretty certain he's going to want a decimal as your answer. So if that's the case, then you would just write 15 divided by 2, and that is 7.5. Okay, so this is my slope. And then my y-intercept, if I come over here and I'm looking at my slope line, that's what we were wanting to see, is where this line crosses our y-axis. Okay, and it crosses right at 0, so our y-intercept is 0. Okay, next one. Number 2, same idea. They gave us the point, so we just have to label them. I'm going to say this is x. Oh, just kidding. x1, y1, and then x2, y2. Make sure you're always labeling x and y. And then your formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Plug your numbers in. So 35 minus y1, which was 20. x2 is 20 minus x1, which was 10. And get your answer and then turn it into a decimal. Okay, this next one, did I skip one? This is 3. Okay, so on this one they didn't give us points. So what we're gonna have to do, I'm gonna zoom way in, almost like if you've ever looked through a scope and you wanna line up the target in the middle of the crosshairs, which means where to cross like that. So we're looking for where our line goes through the intersection or the crosshairs of our grid. So like, for example, I'm looking at my line, looking. Here is not a point. Where I'm hovering over right there, that's not a point. So I'm going to keep going. That's not a point. It only crosses one of the lines. I need it to be crossing both. So right here, that could be a point because it crosses right in the intersection of the 2 pieces of our graph. The 2 crosshairs, I should say. And I'm going to keep going. No, 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 yes. Okay, so I'm going to write those 2 points down. So up here, my x and y, my x is 0 because I didn't go anywhere right or left, so I'm going to write 0. And my y is 1. I came up one spot on the y-axis. So now my second pair of points on the x, I went over 2. And then my y vertical is -2. And I'm going to do the same thing we did on the front. So I'm going to say y2 minus y1. I'm going to write the formula down every time. And I'm going to use a different color. So I'm going to label this first pair as x1, y1. And my second is x2, y2. Then I'm going to plug those in over here. So my y2 I just labeled as -2 minus y1. Then my x's. x2 was 2 minus x1, which was 0. So when I go to solve, -2 minus 1 is -3. 2 minus 0 is 2. So -3 over 2, or if we divide it, turn into a decimal, -1.5. So that is my slope. You will most likely see it this way in multiple choices, not like a decimal. So just be aware of that. And then your y-intercept, we're looking to see where it crossed the y-axis. And it crossed at +1. Same idea on this one. They've already given you your points, so label them however you want. I'm going to say x1, y1, x2, y2. And then your formula. So 0 minus 1, 3 minus 1, -1, 3 minus 1 is 2. So slope is -1/2 or -0.5. And then your y-intercept where it crosses the y-axis, the vertical axis. And it's not at 1, it's not at 2, it's right in the middle. So I'm going to say your y-intercept is 1.5 or 1.5 since it's between. I'm going to go through a couple more of these, maybe not the whole page, I just kind of want to see them all. On this one, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I am going to just kind of help get some of those points down. So I'm looking, I got to find good ones where they're in the crosshairs, and I see one right there on the y-axis. And another one here. So those are pretty easy points. This point, to label it, it was at x value of 3. And on the y-axis, it didn't go anywhere. It didn't go up or down, so it's at 0. And then on my other point, I didn't go anywhere on the x. I just went straight up, so I have to put 0 for my x. And I went up 2, so +2. Okay, then use your formula. Label it however you want, but you could do this. Now you know where to plug your numbers in. Same thing on this, it's just multiple choice. Usually you can eliminate a couple answer choices just because they will have the wrong y-intercept. So your y-intercept is between -1 and -2. That should help. Also, if you ever see your line, if you're looking at your graph from left to right, like we look at most things, like we read a word, read a sentence. If I'm looking at this side, even if it's slight, it's going down to the left, right? From this side of the graph, I'm looking at this side, it's going down to the left. That means it's got to be a negative slope. If you look on your left side of the graph, for example, ignore this. If your line is going up, looking at the left side, it's going up, then that would be positive. Down, negative. Just a helpful tip so you can eliminate, even if you got stuck and totally forgot how to do it. Just a couple clues. Number 6. Same thing. Which of these best describes the profit Emily makes from selling these cards? It basically just wants this slope. So you have 0, 0. I don't know if that's a good one to use. I guess you could. I mean, yeah, you could. y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So technically you have 0, 0. And then you have 4 and 30. So x1, y1, x2, y2. You can do it that way, or you can even just see 30 over 4. And what does that reduce down to? And same thing on this one. What is the slope and what is the y-intercept? Where does it cross the y-axis? Label your points, x1, y1, x2, y2, and use your formula. Number 9, same thing. What's the slope and y-intercept? Your y-axis is way up there. And then find 2 good points that you can write down. That's kind of hard to tell. Pretty sure this is a point. Pretty sure this is a point. And I think it's kind of every other one. So any of those that you wanted to use, I'm going to go ahead and write down a couple. This one is at 2 and 7. And this one is at 4 and 6. Oh, did I skip them? Same thing on number 9, your slope and your y-intercept. Your y-intercept is way up here. Is this the same problem? And yes. So that might change by the time your assignment is actually posted. If not, answer the thing. And then there's just a couple more. Just gonna breeze past them. Y's are always on the bottom when solving the slope formula. Go back and check. The y-intercept is where the line hits the y-axis. True or false? And that is it.